What's up, everybody? So one of my favorite things about living in a foreign country is just noticing how different the cultures are when you live in this foreign place. And even after 2 years of living here almost, there's still like little things that will happen. And especially like I've been hanging out with some people from America or people that have recently moved here, and talking to these people has given me some fresh perspectives on things that Swedish people do that is actually unique to them and very, very interesting. So these conversations are things that I love to have, and I thought I would share some of those things that we've been discussing here in this video. So the first cultural thing that I think is interesting that I want to talk about in this video is dads pushing strollers. This is something that you see a lot here in Sweden, especially like during weekdays and sorts of things like that, where you don't often see this as much in America. Sure, there are dads that take time off to be with their kids, and of course there's quality family interactions in America too, but because the culture in Sweden, paternity leave is much more common, and even maternity leave, people get a lot more time off. But a lot of families in America, the moms will take time off from work to raise the kids, or the kids will go into daycare or those sorts of things. But here in Sweden, it's much more common to see dads actually being off from work, being with their kids. And another reason why I think you see dads with their strollers and with their kids more often, or at least why I've seen that more often, is because the public transportation is so much more accessible for everybody here in Sweden. Basically, where I'm from in America, you really needed a car to go just about anywhere. There are places in America with good transportation, like New York, for example. You can get by on the public transportation, but most places in America, you really need a car to go places. And when you ride the public transportation, you get to see people from all walks of life, older people, younger people, all riding the transportation together. Whereas when you ride a car, you kind of just like show up at your destination, and you don't necessarily see all these other people that are out in the community. And I think that's another reason why I've noticed these dads with strollers a little bit more, because we're all riding the public transportation together. The second interesting cultural thing that I want to talk about is that Swedish people, they don't necessarily want to commit themselves to one thing or the other. This is kind of a little bit interesting to explain, but I noticed this when I was applying for my new work permit at my new job here in Stockholm. And basically, the company is a smaller company, so we don't have a collective bargaining agreement, kollektivavtal. We don't have that. It's a smaller company, so basically they're insuring me as an employee through another method. But when I apply for the work permit, the trade union has to basically give a statement on whether or not the terms of the contract and everything is on par with the industry standards and that everything looks good. And in the past, when I had applied for teaching jobs, they always said, yes, it looked good. I was covered by the collective bargaining agreement and everything. The salary was always good. And even though I have a really good offer of employment, because it's a smaller company and they don't have that collective agreement, the union declined to answer yes or no. They said they don't want to say no. They don't want to say that, no, I shouldn't be able to get a work permit, but they didn't want to say yes. And they're kind of in that gray area of not wanting to commit themselves to one way or the other. And I feel like that is a little bit more of a Swedish thing. In America, people are more kind of decisive on this is how it is, and this is like just making more decisive decisions, whereas people in Sweden don't want to necessarily be held responsible. So they kind of, I thought that was very, very interesting. I'm curious if you guys agree with me on this one, or if this is just kind of going on in my head. But my gut instinct is that I've gone into interactions in the past when dealing with people and asking questions that they didn't fully know the answer to, and they didn't want to answer it one way or the other. They just said, I don't want to be held responsible for how I answer this question. So it can kind of be tough to navigate that gray area here in Sweden, and I wonder if you guys agree with me on that one. An interesting side note about this story is the word for unions here in Sweden is facket. And so when we were going through my contract at work, we were basically writing down, and we don't have these insurances, so we'll have to get this, and fuck it. And I was like, wait, did they just say what I think they said about my contract? And like, no, the fuck it, that's the union. And I'm like, oh, okay, it sounded like something else. So I was like, okay, just fuck it, but I hope I don't get demonetized for that, because I'm not saying what you think I'm saying. I'm actually saying the Swedish word for unions. Another interesting cultural difference I want to touch on in this video that I've never talked about, I think, on the channel is customer service in Sweden versus America. In America, people and businesses are extremely customer service minded. For example, when I was in LA last time, there was a problem with the microphone that I've been using on my camera. So I went to the camera store and bought a new microphone. The new microphone that I bought had the exact same problem, so I took it back and exchanged it for another microphone. And then I realized that I didn't actually want that other microphone, and so I took that one back. And there was never any problem. They just, even though I had opened the box and used the microphone, they just accepted it back and said, hey, if you're not happy, we'll take care of it. It's no problem. Here in Sweden, I bought a piece of camera equipment that was not functioning, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to take this into the camera store. They're just going to exchange it out and give me a new one directly so that I can use it, because I'm relying on this to create content and do these sorts of things. And instead of just doing a quick exchange like I thought, and what I think most people in America would do, they said, hey, we're actually going to send your packet to China, have them look at it, and come back. And I'm going, how long is this going to take? I need to use this equipment. And they're like, well, we have equipment that you can rent. And I'm going, wait a second, I just spent thousands of crowns on this equipment, and it's not functional, and now I have to wait to be able to use it. I thought that was very, very strange, but that's just the culture here in America. They're always putting that customer first and always going the extra mile just to make sure the customer is satisfied, and I feel like that is a very, very American thing. And you can even see this in the tipping culture. The tipping culture is another cultural difference that I want to talk about in this video. And I was just talking to a girl who has been a waitress in America, and now she's a waitress here in Sweden. And the servers here in Sweden actually get paid a lot more hourly, but she said that she would make more money in America because of tips. Because when you go out to restaurants in America, you typically pay between 15 to 20% in tips to your server. So even though she was only making like $2 an hour, she ended up making more money because of all the tips that she would get from working as a server. And so I think there's a lot of this open friendliness that Americans have, because that's kind of ingrained in the cultural mindset. When you're working for tips, you want to impress the customer. You're always going to have a smile on your face. You're always going to be very customer minded to make sure that they're having a good experience. Whereas in Sweden, because you get paid up front, it's kind of nice in a way, because your server, they don't have to stress in that way, and they know that they're taken care of and they're going to make a certain amount of money. But at the same time, they're not going to be as inspired maybe to go that extra mile. So I think that American customer service and American hospitality really is something special. I'm not bashing on Swedes at all in this video. All the Swedes that I meet are extremely nice and very, very helpful people in general. But you can see that customer service mindset, I just think, is a little bit higher in America. But one of the downsides to this, and one of the things that I actually appreciate about Sweden, is it can almost be a little bit superficial in a way in America. And when you meet people in America on the outside, a lot of times people will be extremely bubbly, extremely friendly. And like, for example, if you ask somebody in America, how's your day going? Even if they're having a terrible day, they're going to say that they're having a good day just to keep up appearances. They'll have a smile on their face and they're just kind of going to grin their way through it. Whereas in Sweden, if you ask somebody who's having a bad day, how's your day going? They're going to be honest with you. They're going to tell you, hey, I'm going through a rough day, blah, blah, blah. They'll open up, and I think that allows you to have a little bit more of deeper, real connections here in Sweden. And the last thing that I think is culturally interesting that I want to talk about in this video is there's kind of this weird mutual admiration between Americans and Swedes. Like, for example, when Swedish people go to America, there's kind of this stereotype of like this beautiful, perfect society where all the people are beautiful and everybody's taken care of. And I mean, Sweden is an amazing place, but there's kind of that stereotype, at least when Americans aren't busy confusing Sweden with Switzerland and they actually know that Sweden is Sweden. There is like this very, very nice stereotype when Swedes go to America, I feel like, and vice versa. I feel like there's kind of this like weird infatuation with American people, that Swedes really love American culture, all the movies, all of the music, and all of these things. Like, America is such a giant like cultural powerhouse with all of the content creation and things that are coming out of America. It's a very culturally relevant country. I think Swedish people really do enjoy Americans and American culture in general. I was just talking to my friend the other day about this, and we thought, okay, maybe because Swedish people are a little bit more reserved, they're kind of like curious and enamored with Americans, how people can be so open and bubbly and superficial. Maybe that has to do with part of this enamorment. Part of the reason why Swedes kind of think Americans are interesting, because they'll just kind of like say whatever they want, do whatever they want. And it's interesting because Swedes and Americans, the cultures are very, very similar, but there are these subtle differences. And it's actually really interesting the more you get into it. So I'm curious if you guys agree with some of these things that I've been saying. Leave some comments down below which of these 5 things was the most interesting to you guys. And also I want to thank Northman Langi, the watches that I have been rocking lately. I absolutely love these. There is going to be a code down in the description if you want to check them out, and you get a little discount using that code as well. We are going to be doing a giveaway of one of these watches in a future video if you're following both my Instagram account and the Northman Langi Instagram account, but I will do more details on that in the future. But for now, I just want to say thank you everybody for watching today's video. Be sure to subscribe for more cultural insights, especially about American and Swedish culture. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next video.